Alrighty. Hello everyone. I'm Alexander, also known as AJ, and this is the first Q&A I've ever done, Q&A video I've ever done. I've done these before on Twitter, for sure, and I've done a couple of things on streams when I used to stream 3 or 4 years ago, but this is the first pre-recorded video doing it. And funnily enough, this is the second time I'm recording this one, because we had issues with the first one. So fingers crossed that you're watching this, and I'm not wasting 4 hours of my life again. Hey, Editor AJ, here just for a second. So part of the first Q&A I did, a lot of it was corrupted, like the visuals were just unusable, some of the audio didn't work that well, but there were parts that I was still able to use. It's just not the whole thing. I wasn't able to upload as a cohesive question and answer. But there are some questions I answered in the first one that I think I answered better than I did in the second one. So here and there I'll be splicing in clips from the first one, the first file that I didn't end up uploading, into this one, just for the better answer, in my opinion. The footage is a little blurry in some of those. Nothing I can really do about that. Sorry about that. But yeah, just letting you know about that. Oh, and also, one thing that I kind of say here and there, but not really consistently enough, I don't think, is that this question and answer will have spoilers for a lot of series that I love. So I'm just gonna put it out there. There's a chance you could be spoiled. I gave a couple of spoiler warnings for things, but not a whole holistic one at the beginning of the video, I don't think. So just letting you know right now, there will be spoilers for a lot of these questions. I know that's not ideal. If you want to watch it, but are a bit wary of the spoilers, but might want to go into it anyway, I do read out every question beforehand, before answering it. So there, I suppose, if you see a question that might lead to spoilers and you don't want to hear that, you can just mute it for that segment, or something like that. I don't know, up to you. If you don't want to watch it all because of that, totally fair as well. Just letting you know, spoiler warning. So just a bit of background info for why I'm doing this at all. If you're not interested in this sort of thing, you can skip to the timestamp. I'll probably put a timestamp on screen, or something in the description, or something in a pinned comment. And you can just skip to that to get started on the questions if you're not interested in this part. But I'm doing this primarily because I think the next step in the most natural evolution for my content would be to get into streaming. Streaming, casual content, more sort of intimate content, more personal stuff, a lot more laid back. Because I think when I watch content creators, I think it's cool when they're more casual, they're sharing, their personal lives, obviously not oversharing, but things about themselves with their audience. As an audience member, I personally appreciate that. So I think it's cool for content creators to be able to do that. And I haven't really done that. My main channel videos sometimes have reflections on myself, but by and large, they aren't very personal, and they're more about the stories I cover than anything else. So I'd like to get into streaming eventually, pretty soon, hopefully before the turn of the year. And in the meantime, as I'm getting things sort of set up for that, I'd like to do more casual stuff like this. So this morning, I put out a tweet and a sort of YouTube community post where I said that I'll be recording this question and answer thing, and for people to put in the replies any questions they'd like to be answered. So we'll be answering both. I don't know how long this will be, but the first time I did this, it was quite long, and I had to divide the video into a YouTube answer section, so answering the questions that were asked on YouTube, and the Twitter one. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm assuming right now that I'll be dividing them. On Twitter, we had 92 replies. On YouTube, we had 75. But I think we'll get started on the YouTube side. One more thing to add is that there are lots of sort of questions on there that people ask, what are your thoughts on, not just in these questions, but in general. People always ask me, what are your thoughts on X series? What are your thoughts on Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works? What are your thoughts on To Your Eternity? Whatever. A great resource for that would be my anime list account here. I've linked it in the description of all of my videos, so you can just easily click the link on any of my videos. Go here. This is a great resource for anyone who's interested in my tastes on any of that sort of thing. So if you want to know my thoughts on any given anime, you can just go into the anime list here. So for example, you're curious about what I think about Bakemonogatari just in general. You can see here I gave it a 9, and here are some general thoughts about it. Very simple. You can just go in here and get some summarized thoughts on it. So thoughts on X anime, easily answered through this. If you go back to my homepage, same deal. If you want to see, if you want to ask my top 10 anime of all time, I have my ranked top 42 right here. So there's a resource for that. Same with my favorite antagonists of all time. Same with my favorite protagonists. And the video games are outdated. You can do my favorite films as well, my favorite Western television shows. And yeah, it's a great resource for wanting to know general stuff like that, so definitely recommended. And a few of the questions I saw would be ones that I would refer to this, but one here or there I might answer the questions if I just feel like it. It's not a big deal. Okay. So yeah, let's get started, I think. Okay, YouTube. I guess let's just go from the oldest to the most recent. Okay, what is your favorite anime and game OST? So something you'll realize as this goes on is that I have tons of trouble narrowing things down. There's some things that I've ranked pretty easily. Favorite protagonists, favorite anime, characters within a series sometimes. But when it comes to things like favorite OSTs, favorite OPs, EDs, it's very hard for me to rank stuff. I don't like choosing between my children too much when it comes to these things. So I'm usually just going to give you a slew of answers instead of narrowing it down to one. Sorry about that. That's just how it is. Anime OSTs, I'll just name a bunch. Hunter x Hunter, obviously. Haikyuu. I love Yuki Hayashi's work on Haikyuu, and just as good as that, in my opinion, is his work on the slightly more contemplative and slow and kind of more mature in terms of the character age and the setting, Run with the Wind. Amazing work on there. And let's see, Showa Roku Rakugo Shinju is one of my favorite anime ever, and the soundtrack contributes greatly to that. Sorry, one other thing. As I'm shifting into doing this more casual content, it's something that I'm not totally used to just yet. It's not something I do that often, this sort of casual format. So this is my way of practicing speaking more off the cuff without a script in front of me. And because of that, I'm going to ramble, I'm going to repeat myself, I'm going to stumble over my words, so just please bear with me, and hopefully by the time I start streaming and get to different content, I'll be better at that. It's all part of the process. Anyway, so all those anime I mentioned, Hunter x Hunter, Haikyuu, Run with the Wind, Rakugo, Eva, amazing soundtrack, Beastars, amazing soundtrack. That soundtrack is like baked into the identity of that show. There is also Gurren Lagann, amazing soundtrack. Ping Pong the Animation, Steins Gate. A lot of my favorite anime are my favorite anime partly because they have great soundtracks. So if you just look at any of my favorites on here, you're probably going to come up with a great soundtrack on here. Attack on Titan, of course. Monogatari, amazing soundtrack. Kyosogiga, Penguin Drum, yep. Durarara, Violet Evergarden, Hoseki no Kuni, Berserk, yeah, any of my favorites, usually they have a great soundtrack. Now, in terms of, I think it also asked about video games. Yeah, so in terms of video games, now this is my backlogged account. It's basically the equivalent of my anime list, just for video games. So for this, let's see if I can narrow it down a bit more. So this is not a video game, it's a visual novel, Umineko. Fata Morgana, but they're classified as like something like interactive stories or something in Japan, which some say technically falls under games. I don't know. I'll include it, why not? These two have some of my favorite soundtracks in anything ever. Chrono Trigger, Nobuo Uematsu's work on basically any Final Fantasy is gonna be my favorite, probably. So 9, 6, 10, which was not all done by him, 7, 8, all those soundtracks are among my favorites. Any Pokemon game, basically, will be on my favorites soundtracks. Xenoblade, this may be my favorite one ever, but Xenoblade 2 also has an equally good soundtrack. Most Zeldas. Witcher is great for atmospheric stuff. Any Nier game is amazing. Keiichi Okabe is insanity. Animal Crossing has one of my favorite OSTs ever as well. Just the GameCube one, not any of the ones that came after it. Those have good OSTs as well, but this is my favorite. Paper Mario, 13 Sentinels, Omori, for sure. And Undertale isn't on here. This is the list of my top 40 favorite games and visual novels of all time. It's not completely up to date because I'm currently doing a replay of Undertale, and it'll surely make it here sometime, or by the time I finish it. And Undertale's OST is definitely a favorite as well. Mario Sunshine, definitely. Persona 5 Royal. And we can leave it there. This isn't comprehensive at all. I may be forgetting some, but these are just the ones that come to mind first. I did say that I can't narrow down, right? Okay, next one. How did you start getting into making video essays? Really love your content. The Haikyuu videos are great, and I sometimes watch my favorite video of yours, the Oikawa one. Glad you enjoy the content. Thank you. So, I've told this before, but I'm sure there are many that don't know. So the way that I got into making these videos is really funny. Essentially, I started watching anime in 2015. My friends introduced it to me by telling me about Attack on Titan, and from there I just sort of got a bit more into the medium, found more and more favorites. Eventually I watched Fate Zero pretty early on, and I absolutely adored it. If you know anything about me, then you know that I love Fate Zero. It's one of my favorite stories of all time, and it was back then as well. And so I was just rambling about it to my friends, and they actually liked it quite a bit less than I did. So that got me pretty frustrated because they didn't see in it what I saw, and I just wanted to express to them and explain to them what I saw so that maybe they'd be able to relate, or at least, understand me. But I just could never articulate it that well, and I could never communicate it. They never really got it. They never agreed with me. So what I ended up doing was going, hey, I'm pretty sure that people make video essays about anime. I'll do this so I can structure my thoughts about Fate Zero properly, send my friends the link, and they can watch it and be awed and amazed and agree with me, or at least understand where I'm coming from. So I put a bunch of work into making that video. Unfortunately, right now it's been blocked from YouTube. It's not available to watch. I don't remember if it was music I used or something like that. I do still have the raw files, so I can put them on Google Drive for patrons or anyone who's a patron to see it if they're interested. I could do that later because I haven't lost the file. But yeah, unfortunately, it's not available on YouTube anymore. But that was my first video. I put it up after months of work, showed it to them. They thought it was good. Everyone was happy. I don't know, they didn't end up liking the show as much as me, but they at least saw where I was coming from and enjoyed the video. Then after that, I started randomly getting other people who found the video, who would reply or comment and sort of interact with me about it. And that kind of threw me for a loop because I wasn't expecting that at all. I just wanted to show my friends. I expected there to be 4 views on it. 1 for each of my friends, and then me. But it quickly got up to 40, 50 views, and people were commenting, and they were interested. So I went, maybe this has a greater reach than I expected. So I shared it. I shared it on Reddit, Twitter, I think. And yeah, people enjoyed it a decent amount, and they then request me to do some other videos, and I went, damn. that was fun. If I can do more, then, you know, I would. I'd definitely do more if people are interested. So I made the Hunter x Hunter Royal Guards video, I did some Witcher, I did some Berserk, and it just snowballed from there. People just were interested. And so that was cool. It was just a snowball effect from trying to prove to my friends that Fate Zero was good. Not the most amazing origin story. I got very lucky. I kind of stumbled into it, but I feel like a lot of people stumble into these sorts of things, right? Have you been reading any interesting manga lately? So, I just recently released, a few days ago, my Berserk video, my first Berserk video in 3 years or so. And that was the result of a reread after Mira's passing. So, that was obviously a great reread. It was amazing. Berserk's one of my favorite stories ever. I'm also currently reading Blue Period. Really good manga. It's already in my favorites. The main protagonist is already a favorite character of mine. It's really good. I think it's great. The anime adaptation is no good. Don't check that one out. But the manga's great. I'm having a good time with it. I'm about 2/3 of the way to catching up, maybe a bit more than that. So yeah, Blue Period. It's really good. Which recent manga, light novel, anime have the best endings in your opinion? How much does an ending affect your enjoyment of a series? Endings affect my enjoyment of a series quite a lot, but I wouldn't say they make or break it at the same time. They're very significant, but they don't define my feelings on a series. They don't. A bad ending won't invalidate everything. A great ending won't make things that I might not have been as hot about earlier on suddenly a lot better for me, or anything like that. It's important, for sure, just not the be-all and end-all. So I don't know what you mean by recent, but I'm just going to go through some of my favorites that have great endings. So, true to the brand, Hunter x Hunter is actually one of my favorite endings. It's not like top 5 or anything, but the anime ending of Hunter x Hunter's like episode 148 of Hunter x Hunter, I think ties up the series quite nicely. There are a lot of open-ended threads, obviously. There's Kurapika, there's what's going to go on with Leorio, what's going to happen with the Phantom Troop, Hisoka, Pariston, whatever, Gon's Nen. So there's lots of unresolved threads. But I think that a lot of that, which would have been a problem in a different series, is negated or made okay because of the context here. The context that Jing introduces in episode 148 of, it's not about the destination, it's about the detours, the journey along the way. And I think that all just kind of seamlessly coalesces within itself to make the ending feel very natural, even if it doesn't conclude everything. Life goes on, it's just another detour, right? So I think the ending for Hunter x Hunter is great, which not a lot of people do, and, that's understandable. It's not the most traditional sort of ending, but that's definitely up there as one of my favorites. Another one, End of Evangelion, one of the, in conjunction with the TV ending, one of the best endings I've ever seen of anything ever. Haikyuu's manga ending, again, it's beautifully perfect in every way. By the way, this is going to have spoilers for anything I'm going to talk about, so just be warned about that. I'll try to preface some of this stuff with spoiler alerts, but I might forget. But Haikyuu just enhances every major character by the end, while making everything feel just right. And it's amazing because the time skip is not something that I thought was... I was a bit skeptical about it at first, but it just feels like such a natural development for the story in hindsight. And it was just a beautiful choice by Furudate in just enhancing every character. Anyway, Haikyuu. That's one of them. Another one I would say would be Fate Zero. Even though it's a prequel, I think it's very much its own self-contained story as well, and I think the ending is episode 23, 24, 25, that whole 1, 2, 3 punch. One of my favorite endings to anything ever. Yeah. And you mentioned sort of Japanese media. manga, light novel, anime, so I won't get into video games or TV shows, but I have some on there as well. Obviously, I don't have time to answer every question, of course, but I'll try to answer a decent amount of them. So questions like this, favorite villain and favorite hero and why, those are ones I'd refer you to my anime list for. You know, my favorite antagonists are right here, favorite protagonists are right here. So favorite OST from anime, excuse me, I already answered that, but any manga or video or anime video you have plans to cover for a long time but weren't able to for some reason? No. I think I've covered everything that I've wanted to on the channel. If we go through the timeline or all the videos I've done, there were parts in my life or YouTube career where I did feel that way, like, because I started out and I very much have my niche in anime, Hunter x Hunter, Monster, Berserk, Fate Zero, and that was getting me some success, right? And I didn't want to stray away from that because I was growing and I didn't want to risk alienating people who weren't interested in my other passions. So I more or less stuck to this, and for the sake of growth. But eventually I just kind of sort of realized, I think people are watching my videos for what I'm saying more than the series itself. Maybe it's a mix of both, but they're watching my stuff because they're interested in my opinions. So why not apply that to things, all sorts of things that I'm passionate about? So I would make things like this Kefka analysis video earlier on, and I'd go, sorry, I know it's not my usual thing, and people would just go, it's fine. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. So that was very encouraging and liberating for me. And I sort of internalized this idea of, you know, just talk about whatever you want to talk about. People are not going to ditch you if you put out a video that they're not as interested in. They're just going to not watch it and then stick around for the next one. Most people. I put in the mentality of, I've talked to people about this before, where I would think of a topic for a video, and I'd go, okay, here's this idea. If you make a video about it, and it totally bombs, and no one watches it, it gets 10 views, you make no money from it, no one cares about it, except you. Would you get enough gratification through the process of creating this to justify making it in the first place? Would it be a useful, a valuable use of your time to do this, even if it doesn't result in growth or money or anything like that? If the answer is no, then don't make the video. If the answer is yes, make the video. My mentality was, from that point on, was to not expect any video to be successful. And if the reason I'm doing something hinges a lot on it being successful, then how much do I really care to make something about it in the first place, right? So that was the way I was thinking. So if you look at it from the other side, I'd just go, okay, so if I'm passionate about something enough so that I don't care if it doesn't get any views, why not just cover it, cover it in a video? Maybe it'll surprise me and people will be interested, or maybe no one will watch it, but I'll have fun through the process, through expressing myself. So around 2017, I started ingraining that idea. And I branched out a little bit. I started covering different anime, anime that I viewed as less popular than the likes of Hunter x Hunter, Berserk, whatever. Fullmetal Alchemist was another mainstay on the channel. I started doing video games, so here I did Persona, Nier Automata, which was a patron request. Kept developing, and then we get to this. We get to the Lord of the Rings video, the one on Boromir. Boromir had always been one of my favorite characters, and I would have loved to have talked about him, but I was just going, no one's going to watch this. They watch me for anime. I'm talking about a live-action movie that's totally out of the realms of what people watch me for. No one's going to care. But by this point, I was just going, I branched out, kind of, so let's just do it, screw it. I think when it actually released, I put in a pinned comment like, I know no one's going to be interested in this, but hey, if you're interested, I hope you enjoy it. Something like that. Like, I didn't expect any views at all, but it kind of blew up. Like, right now it's sitting at 369k views. People liked me covering a different topic, and yeah, so this was the big step for something that I wanted to take a stab at, but just never had the chance, or felt like I never had the chance. So this was a huge stepping stone for me. And so in terms of my approach from here on, I kind of changed things up a little. I made these shorter 5-minute videos about Hoseki no Kuni, Final Fantasy X, Durarara, just sort of quick videos, more so based on feel and me trying to be a little more poetic than trying to be analytical. And I had fun with them. So I branched out more. Eventually we got to Xenoblade Chronicles. So anyone who's seen my profile picture knows and has played Xenoblade knows what that's from. It's the title screen from Xenoblade. And so people would see that, and then they constantly ask me, you know, when are you going to cover Xenoblade in a video? And it's the sort of thing where it's sometimes very difficult to express yourself and talk about series that are very near and dear to your heart, just because you feel like you won't be able to do it justice. You just don't really know what to say. Your connection is something that you don't know how to articulate. And that's what I felt with Xenoblade Chronicles, which is why for years I just didn't talk about it. Eventually I did, though. I got this video out. So that was another stepping stone for me, articulating words for something that I felt like I wasn't equipped to talk about. So that was big. I don't think it was a very good video. I think it was okay. And I don't think this was a very good video either. But they were very important for me, having tackled two works that were very near and dear to my heart that I felt like I wouldn't be able to for differing reasons. Just to go back for a second, Steins Gate was also like that, but to a lesser degree. Oh, I guess I talked about Shiki in my Steins Gate video. So this video was one that I think I released it about 6 to 8 months after I started making videos. So it was one to a lesser degree where I just didn't know how to express my thoughts on it because it was so personal to me. But I eventually got there, so this was a pretty big stepping stone too. But sorry, back on track. I'm a little all over the place. Twilight Princess was kind of big too, and then this was huge. Harry Potter was a huge part of my life as a child, continues to be today, was throughout my whole YouTube career up until that point, obviously. So I always wanted to do something about it. I always wanted to do something about the movies in reference to the books, to give my thoughts on it, to critique it, whatever. I actually started working on this pretty quickly after the Lord of the Rings video was released. So this released April 19th, 2019, and the Lord of the Rings video released June 2018. So I think about a month after the Lord of the Rings video I started working on this. It just took me nearly a year to release it. Anyways, so the Harry Potter one, I put so much work into it. It took me so long to do, but I had fun throughout the whole thing. It was very easy to express myself and express the thoughts I've had throughout my life. And it was great. Once I eventually got it out, I said, okay, you know, I put so much time and effort into this. If it doesn't make me a cent, cool. This is a passion project. It's a way for me to express myself. Let's just go for it. Maybe some people will be interested. And so I released it. And a big thing was that it was actually my first critique, too. Most of my videos are more analytical, thematic overview sort of thing. This is my first real foray into criticizing certain things. Of course, there's all that other stuff as well. Praise, talking about the sort of lore, the themes, the technical aspects of the films. But there's also a great deal of criticism there too. So I wanted to make sure that it was all substantiated and it all made sense. You know, with critiques, people tend to get upset no matter what if you say things that are negative. But I wanted it to be a case where I could be confident that even if people were upset that I was criticizing these things, I backed myself up properly, I explained my reasoning, and I'm 100% satisfied that I did do that with Harry Potter. And it blew up, you know? 5 million views is my most successful video. So, you really never know. So that was another huge one. this is my first Attack on Titan video. That was just a case of not really knowing exactly how to talk about it, but since then I've gotten a bit more comfortable. This is a huge one too. Same deal with Harry Potter. Pokemon was always a huge part of my life, and I always loved the setting-based storytelling that I talk about in these videos. But I never really knew how to articulate it that well. So Pokemon was a big one I had in the back of my mind, where I was just going, man, I wish I could make a video on it one day. And eventually, I don't know if this was a patron request or if I just did it, but either way, I just, I guess, worked up the motivation to finally do it, and it was much easier than I thought it would be to do this. I was able to get the words down very easily, express myself very easily. I think it came out really well. I talked about Sinnoh, my favorite region up until this point, to sort of ease me into it before doing the other regions. It was great. I was so glad that I did it, and it did well too, 500k views. And then it became sort of mainstay on the channel for a year and a half, where I did the other regions too. So that was great. I did one on Game of Thrones, that was cool. That was something I always kind of wanted to do. Sorry this answer is really long, by the way. Same deal with Mad Men. This is my first live-action TV show. My first, so Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. Oh, actually, no, Game of Thrones is a TV show. But I always wanted to do something about Mad Men. It's been on and off my favorite TV show, tied with Breaking Bad, since 2010 or so, something like that. So I always wanted to do something about it, and so I covered one of my favorite episodes of TV ever, and I think it was a pretty good job. People seemed to like it, and it did well. Again, almost 350k views. And that helped me work up the motivation to do Breaking Bad, my first Breaking Bad video. It was a very short one. This one's only 8 minutes about Granite State, but Breaking Bad was one of the last things that I went, man, I really want to sort of cover it. I remember distinctly, I came up with this script while I was on a evening jog throughout my neighborhood. I came up with it in my head, like almost fully formed. I stopped up. I was, jogging at the side of a street. I found a bench. I literally wrote out the script on my notes app on my phone and came up with this. And, it did really well, and people liked it, which gave me encouragement to keep doing Breaking Bad videos. And I'm glad I did, because now Breaking Bad's one of the mainstays of the channel, along with sort of things like Attack on Titan, Hunter x Hunter, Haikyuu, Final Fantasy, Breaking Bad's right up there with them. So I'm really glad that I took that step. Supernatural, this was a huge one as well that I always wanted to cover. It was one of my favorite TV shows since like 2007, excuse me. And it just always held a special place in my heart, Recently I rewatched it, and it doesn't hold up quite as well as I remembered, but it's still one of my favorite shows, and I wanted to cover it, so I did. Not many views, but who cares? This is the only thing I really want to do for Supernatural. I just wanted to cover this one episode that I covered in this video, but I'm glad I did it, because it's just something I wanted to do for so long, that I got around to last year. So that was fun. This was a huge project, but it isn't something that I was always looking forward to, this Final Fantasy remake, Final Fantasy VII video. It's something that I kind of just spontaneously started doing after I finished the remake. The Social Network was another one I always wanted to talk about, and I did that at the turn of this year. Continued the Breaking Bad series, continued the Pokemon series up until the end, did one on Better Call Saul. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. And did another Harry Potter one. This one bombed in terms of views. YouTube kind of screwed me a bit with that one. It wasn't letting comments. The comments were all glitchy. Whatever, not a big deal. I talked about Harry and Lupin's relationship, and I'm pretty happy with this. One of my favorite aspects of the series, and yeah, I was happy with it. And yeah, that's about it. Then we have this most recent video, the Guts sort of video, which I guess sort of qualifies because I've been wanting to cover more Berserk since the last time I did it, and the reread I did kind of gave me the perfect excuse to do it. So yeah, at this moment I have nothing that I'm really thinking, I want to eventually do that. I've done everything, and I'm just gonna keep, progressing along the same path I've been going on. I have lots of ideas, just nothing I'm thinking, I really want to do that, but I haven't done it yet. Just lots of ideas of a lot of different series that are in production. Okay, after that extremely long answer, have you watched Jujutsu Kaisen? So many great and interesting characters I think would make for fun videos. I've just been obsessed with the series lately. So this is something I'd usually direct you to my anime list about, because I've made an entry about Jujutsu Kaisen, because I've watched that. But just to quickly answer, I think Jujutsu Kaisen's very good. I had lots of fun with it. I always looked forward to Fridays when it was airing. It's just a really fun shonen. I think the production is great. As an adaptation, well, I haven't read the manga, so I can't speak of its quality as an adaptation. The aesthetics are great. There are some points where it gets a little, bland, or the color palette isn't too great in some sections, but overall that's just a minor nitpick in terms of the production. The aesthetics are great, the animation is smooth and fluid, there are lots of great set pieces, and in the moments they prioritize, it's just really super fun to watch. I don't have any plans to make videos about it, just because, I think the cast is really fun, but I don't have anything much to say about the characters. I don't love the series while I like it. I don't quite love it yet, so it's not on that level where I have the passion to cover it. But maybe later sometime. Maybe Season 2 will change my mind. What is your favorite video game story? Again, hard to narrow it down, but generally if it's near the top of this list here, it's a favorite story of mine. So I guess Umineko, if you don't want to count visual novels, then all these ones near the top are favorite stories of mine, but they're not there solely because of the story. Either Final Fantasy IX or Nier Replicant and Nier Automata put together, as a consistent narrative, would probably be my favorite video game story. 2 questions if that's alright. First, I've noticed that pretty much every classic anime released before the year 2011 for some reason, aside from Hunter x Hunter. Oh, sorry, so every classic anime released before has been released before 2011. That being said, are there any anime from after 2011 that you think will go down as being remembered as a classic? So, this is a bit of a difficult one. And there's a second question. My second question is about pets. Do you have any, and what are your favorite kinds? So, for the first one, it's a bit difficult for me because I've never pretended to be an anime connoisseur or someone who's very knowledgeable about the industry or history about anime or anything like that. I don't really know what constitutes a classic. I guess it's got to be generally applicable to all sorts of audiences, ideally good. But in terms of widespread appeal, I don't know. I don't really know what makes a classic. I've never pretended to know these things. If I had to guess, I think Attack on Titan would definitely go down as one. Despite the production being kind of inconsistent, by and large, the widespread audience loves Attack on Titan, so I can't really envision a future where it doesn't go down as a classic. Aside from that, I don't really know. I'm sorry. Not really my wheelhouse. But the second question about pets, do you have any, and what are your favorite kinds? When I was 5 or 6, I owned a bird for a couple of years. Parakeet. That was fun. And then when I was 9, in 2004, I got a dog. His name was Hiro. And we owned him for 15 years. He just passed away in March of 2019, which was very sad. But, we gave him a great life. He thoroughly enriched our life, our lives, our being my family. He was an amazing dog. I loved him. I still love him. I even got a tattoo of his paw print, which is on my left calf. So yeah, Hiro was a wonderful pet. Amazing dog. Very well-tempered. We were spoiled with him because he had such a great temperament. He hardly ever was aggressive, very gentle, very loving, affectionate. We just struck the lottery with him. So yeah, I've had a bird and a dog. And I'd be open to owning more pets in the future, but probably not right now. Maybe a few years down the line. And what are your favorite kinds? Dogs are my favorite pets just because of my experience with Hiro. But I have nothing against cats. I've interacted with lots of friends' cats, farm cats. I like them a lot. I think they're cute. I've gotten some scratches, but that's okay. Yeah, I like cats a lot, but I just love dogs the most just because of my experiences with my dog. Which of the big three is your favorite? None of them, because I have not watched or read any of them. I'm a bit weird that way. I'm just not too interested in them. Nothing against them, but, you know. I watched about 35 to 40 episodes of One Piece, and I thought it was, you know, it was pretty okay. But I was just not interested in 800 episodes of that, if that makes sense. You know, that sort of commitment. So, yeah. Yeah, I just didn't really want to. I'm sure they're all great, you know. I don't think they would have gotten that popular if they were trash. But, just not super interested in reading or watching any of them. Do you have any hope that Hunter x Hunter will come back? We're coming up on 3 years. This is a really important question. No. I don't have any hope that it will come back, and I don't think anyone should really expect it to come back. Like you said, 3 years of a hiatus. This is, if not the longest, the second longest hiatus Togashi has ever had. He's getting older. He has health issues. We all know this. He's already written Yu Yu Hakusho. He's written an almost 400 chapter story in Hunter x Hunter. And, you know, through those almost 400 chapters, he's given us so many amazing arcs, so much great storytelling. I think for me, it's just a case of being thankful for what we got, and just Miura's death really made me think about the health of manga writers, or writers in general, creators in general. And it just made me think to myself, you know, if Togashi never writes another chapter again, but if he, in exchange for that, he lives a long, healthy, happy life, then that's totally fine, you know? He's already done so much. Just let him rest, you know? We can look at the ending of the 2011 anime as an ending. I personally do. If you don't want to do that, then that's fine. But I look at it as one. And then anything after that, I just look at as a bonus. Succession War has been a bonus so far. I just think it's healthiest to not have expectations for more, because I don't find it likely that it's going to happen, and just you won't set up yourself for disappointment. And it also doesn't put, you know, maybe unreasonable expectations on Togashi's shoulders, you know? So I just think it's best to not expect it. Have you ever thought about making your own story, anime, manga, etc.? No. That's not something I've ever been too interested in. I've dabbled a little bit and just decided it's not something I really want to do. Lots of other content creators I've seen have been interested in that sort of thing, and that's really cool. It's just not for me. I don't enjoy it much. I'd much rather experience and talk about and discuss other people's work than trying to make my own. Just a personal preference. First, I would like to thank you for the countless hours of amazing content. You are great. Thank you. Very sweet. Second, I would want to know if you go into a series knowing what you want to talk about before rewatching, or you see the content and then decide. I'm not sure I know exactly what you're asking, but whenever I go into watching something fresh that I haven't seen before, you did say rewatch, but might as well just answer in this way. Whenever I go into a series fresh, I never think about making videos. Absolutely never. I just go into a series hoping to enjoy it, that's all. If I end up loving it, and suddenly get an inspiration to talk about it in some way, then great, and I'll talk about it. But going into something trying to analyze it and trying to make it into a script or a video, that's just not enjoyable at all for me. I need to have that passion for it first to sort of then decide, okay, let's see if we can dissect this a little bit into a video. And then I go back and rewatch scenes if I have to, pick up on stuff to add to my point, etc. But first exposure to a story, I never go into something trying to analyze it. And then, in terms of rewatching, generally for things like Fate Zero, Haikyuu, Hunter x Hunter, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Breaking Bad, whatever, I don't usually need... I'm so intimately familiar with those stories, Final Fantasy, Pokemon, whatever, that I don't really feel the need to rewatch them because I feel like I remember them well, but I do rewatch a lot of the scenes just to make sure that I know for sure what I'm talking about, and then maybe I can add some of those clips that I usually add to them to, you know, accentuate my point. Hopefully that answers that question. Third, I'm curious if you have a blueprint for your videos before you start the project. Order of topics, length of the video, the good before the bad, etc. Or if you edit after the fact. No. Okay, so the way I do videos is I watch something, or I reflect on a story I've already watched, and I think of a concept or a character or a theme that I think is really resonant, important to me personally, that I'm passionate about, that I think the story communicates well. So I get this idea, and I build around it. You know, why is this meaningful to me? How do I articulate this in a way that conveys how meaningful it is to me? How do I prove that the story says these things? That's where a lot of the clips come in. And yeah, so, but the most important thing for me is to get all this information down, get all these ideas down, just even if it's rough, unfiltered, messy, get all the ideas down into a script, just bullet point things if you need to, structure it after the fact. Get that idea there, get all these points there. You can edit it afterwards, you can make it more concise afterwards. But it's much better to get it all down, stream of consciousness, and then have to deal with the messiness after than it is to hold back and, you know, just put things here and there in bullet points or make a finely tuned script as the first draft. Where in that case you may be forgetting things that may make your video better. So get all your stuff down, edit after the fact, is my philosophy for it. Can you keep making Breaking Bad analysis videos until the end of time? I never get tired of those. Yeah, like I mentioned before, Breaking Bad is essentially a mainstay on the channel now. I think I found a nice pattern with it where I don't have these grand, 40-minute videos for them, because a lot of my thoughts on Breaking Bad are more micro, are more concise, having to do with individual episodes or themes carried out that manifest in scenes or individual episodes that I can talk about in 9, 10 to 15-minute chunks, smaller videos. So I find those easier to, script. I find them easier to edit because they're shorter. And I think that's just the way to go forward for me for Breaking Bad videos. I hope you guys enjoy them too, because I don't see that going away anytime soon. Well, I know you won't pick this one, but might as well. Have you read Land of the Lustrous? And if so, are we gonna get some videos on it? That series is criminally underrated. Yeah. It's on my anime list. It is one of my favorite manga, right here. And one of my favorite anime. And I did make a video about it. Where is this? Oh, yeah. Yeah, this guy linked my other video. Yeah, I did make a video on it already. It's pretty good. I talked about it before. I think it's pretty cool. Check it out. What videos are you most proud of, and which do you think are your best? So this is a playlist of my best videos. It's roughly half the videos I've ever made. So if a video's in this, it's basically me just saying, I would recommend watching this. This is me making a good video. At my most effective. That doesn't mean that I think all of these videos are masterpieces or anything, and that also doesn't mean that I don't think the videos not in this playlist are bad, or not good, but it's just, I think there's a clear divide between these and everything else, in my opinion. There are 74 videos in this playlist, only 69 are currently public, because I have future ones coming out, that you'll see later. But yeah. This is roughly ordered. If it is in this playlist, I generally consider it to be among my best, but the ones closer to the top are the ones that I think are my real best. So I guess the top 15, 20 or so, somewhere around here, maybe top 25, those are the ones that are among my very best. How do you think your style of videos has evolved over time? So I think there was one big shift in mid to late 2017, and then not much apart from that other than gradual evolution. So what I mean by that is, I didn't have much of a rhyme or reason to what I did with my videos prior to then. I was kind of just saying things. That's not to say some of those videos are not good, because I do think some of them are good. I think some of them are very well structured, but I do think that I kind of stumbled into those a little bit, and I don't think that they were the result of any cohesive plan when it came to approaching these videos. Whereas in 2017, maybe beginning of 2018, I kind of found a way to approach them. You know, the way I talked about structuring them, get that idea, back that idea up, etc. I didn't really fully form that method until then. Before then, I was kind of winging it a little bit, and I didn't realize that until someone commented on I think it was my monster video, and saying just like, dude, what the hell, these videos are so bad. What are you even saying? And like, you're so vapid. What is the plan for these videos? You're just saying shit. It's meaningless, all this stuff you're saying. And, you know, your initial reaction to something like that is to be defensive, because that's quite a brutal criticism. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought there was a kernel of truth there. And I went, you know what? Some of these videos are pretty vapid. What am I actually trying to do with this? Like, I've been winging it up until now, but I need a plan for how I approach things going forward if I want this to be long-term. So that kind of woke me up, so thank you to whoever that was. I don't remember for the life of me who it was, but that hateful comment or criticism definitely helped me. Maybe it wasn't hateful, maybe it was just rough around the edges. So yeah, I made that change in 2017 to 2018. I started implementing clips around that time to back up my points, and I think that was a big sort of shift. Anime clips, video game clips, movie clips, TV shows, whatever. I think implementing them was a big shift for me because it helped the videos to be more atmospheric, accentuated by the music, tone of voice, whatever. And it made them more immersive, and it backed up my points at the same time. I think adding those clips just overall enhanced the videos a lot. So I think implementing them at first and then sort of mastering how to implement them was a big step for me. And then since then, it's just been refining the ways I commentate, the ways I write things. Gradual evolution. So there was that big shift, and then gradual sort of evolving of the style. Do you edit your voice in any way? It sounds like a warm blanket being laid over me. Only the fireplace and a hot cup of tea is missing for a Christmas atmosphere. No, I don't edit it. I just use Audacity. I do have this soundproof booth, which I guess helps, probably. I do have a really good quality microphone. Fun fact, I started recording my videos with the microphone of an iPhone 5. Gradually improved things, got into a Blue Snowball, then a Blue Yeti, Yeti Pro, and then to this mic, which is a Shure SM7B. So, good quality microphone, maybe that helps. But I just, I just talk, talking to the mic, it goes into Audacity, I edit out the white noise, and that's it. Yeah, put music over it, that's it. Nothing special. Your favorite anime finale of all time, without spoilers, I already answered that before. Favorite anime character, don't have one, can't narrow it down. Also, your favorite anti-hero character, don't have one, can't narrow it down. I'm sorry, but I cannot kindly answer these 3 questions. I'm sorry. But thank you for watching, and thank you for asking the question. When you put out the Run With The Wind video, you mentioned that since the show wasn't finished airing, you did not have a final verdict. I am wondering what your thoughts are since the show has ended for some time now. So when I put that video out, I was confident that my theory on what the final message would end up being the case, just because of how the show presented it. It was just so clear that that was where it was headed, and it did end up heading that way, so, yeah. But in terms of the quality, I loved it when I made that video. The last 6 or 7 episodes, I loved it even more. The Hakone Ekiden is one of my favorite arcs in anything, it just enhances every character in a really natural and powerful way. And the ending is amazing. That arc made me tear up multiple times. I love it. It makes me emotional, makes me smile, makes me cry, makes me happy. So yeah, it enhanced the show. So the show is better than I described in that video, after the final 6 or 7 episodes. Why don't you ever talk about One Piece? Because I haven't seen it. I don't talk about it because I haven't seen it. And here's another one. Do you ever plan on reading One Piece? I don't really plan on it. I'm just being sarcastic. Those questions are totally fine. It's just funny how often I get them. The answer is no, I don't really plan to watch or read it, past what I already did. What is your favorite video of yours? The one you are most proud of? I guess I answered that already. The ones near the top of this list are the ones I'm most proud of. Keep being awesome, thank you. What anime did you cry hardest/most at? Just ugly cried at Violet Evergarden. Well, let's see. So Haikyuu makes me tear up the most. Violet Evergarden made me tear up basically every episode. So I think Haikyuu and Violet Evergarden made me tear up the most. Kyoso Giga also got me very emotional. Run with the Wind, spoilers, in the scene where Yuki sees his mom during the Hakone Ekiden, and then in the final scene where Haiji's destroys his knee and then finishes the race, I always lose my shit there. That is just too much. I always start weeping at that point. So Run with the Wind, and then Hunter x Hunter episodes 135, 136, and 147, I believe, are the 3 that just make me lose it. They make me so emotional. But Fate Zero's also made me very emotional. Rakugo, Steins Gate, Attack on Titan, Gurren Lagann, the final fight. The scene where they're in that dreamscape and Kamina comes to save them. It makes me lose it. Monogatari got me pretty emotional at times. Penguin Drum, absolutely. So yeah, a lot of those, but the hardest, Hunter x Hunter and Run with the Wind probably, maybe Gurren Lagann's, that scene I mentioned, and the most would probably be Haikyuu and Violet Evergarden. What are some of your real-life hobbies or interests you don't get to talk about due to the nature of your channel? I love sports. I love sports more than anime, probably. I love watching soccer/football. I love watching American football, and I love watching NBA. I'm a Raptors fan because I've lived in the GTA, the area around Toronto, my whole life. And I'm a neutral for the NFL, more or less. I just enjoy watching it. And I'm unfortunately, at this moment, a Manchester United fan. Let's not get into that. But sports is the answer, essentially. Sports are a huge part of my life that I don't talk about as much in my videos, but I kind of apply the things I've learned from sports into them. My Haikyuu videos, my Kuroko no Basuke videos, Run with the Wind a little bit. And yeah, so I played football, soccer, from when I was 7 to about 18, and then I had to study, so I had to quit. And then from about age 19 to 22, 23, I worked as a coach or trainer. So yeah, huge part of my life, sport. Oh, I just kind of answered that. What sports do you play? Have you started playing? So I answered that. Just soccer/football. I would be bad at anything else. But have you started playing any one in particular after being inspired by some piece of fiction? Yes, or not playing. I got into the NBA because of Kuroko no Basuke. So that's pretty cool. How do you write your scripts? I kind of went over that already. What tips do you have for upcoming YouTubers in the same genre such as yourself? That's very difficult for me to answer, and people always ask me questions about that. And I don't really know. For 2 reasons it's difficult. The first reason is because, like, what general tips do you have for an upcoming YouTuber? It's a very general question. And it's so broad that I don't really know what to aim at. I'm much better if someone has a specific question that I can then answer, using my experiences, than if someone just says, go at it, open-ended, what tips do you have? So it's just difficult for me to know what to aim at. And the other reason why it's difficult is because the anime YouTube, I do much more than anime now, but let's just talk about anime. Like, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, is much more difficult now than it was in 2016. It's much more saturated. A lot of niches are already filled. Sometimes the YouTube algorithm just doesn't cooperate, and you just gotta keep plugging away, right? So I guess because I don't know what it takes to succeed now, but I do know what it took to succeed back then. And basically, like I said earlier, I stumbled into it, but the more important thing, I think, is to make stuff and put them out there. Make stuff you're passionate about, put them out there. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, because you will improve. But there will be people to latch on to what you have to say. Just get stuff out there, don't worry too much about the details, improve later. Get your voice there. Don't be scared of that, because that's how you get out there. That's how, maybe you got caught in the algorithm that way. A lot of it's luck. So yeah, I'm sorry, it's not a great answer, but do stuff that you're passionate about and just keep doing it. Don't get discouraged if you don't get results, because that's the way you kind of force yourself into there, right? I don't have any secrets, tips, or anything. I don't pay much attention to any of that, any of the algorithm. I just talk about what I like to talk about. Sometimes I get lucky, sometimes I don't. It's a bit tough to judge. But be encouraged that a lot of people have been in your position and succeeded, and are currently in your position and working hard. Has time given you a chance to reflect back on Attack on Titan's ending from your initial reaction? If so, how has it changed? Thanks for all the great videos. You're welcome. And my reaction, or my thoughts on Attack on Titan's ending is basically the same as it was when I first read it, which is essentially, it was a mixed bag. I was disappointed because, in my opinion, it wasn't quite up to the standard of the rest of the series, but at the same time, I don't think it's this disaster that undercuts everything. I don't think it's a catastrophe. I think it's a mixed bag of an ending with some very interesting and good things and some bad things. And I don't really want to talk about it too much, because that's a whole can of worms that, maybe when I start streaming, that could be a conversation topic, because I'd be here for 3 hours, But one thing that I do want to say is that the character of Eren, lots of people were disappointed with him after the final chapter. I was the total opposite. I thought the final chapter enhanced him, enriched him, made him more interesting, added an element to him that made me think about him from a different perspective. I think he's a much richer, deeper character. Now, maybe not much, but I think he's a richer and deeper character because of the final chapter. It's mainly Eren wasn't the problem with the final chapter for me. It's mainly the stuff surrounding him. Everything that happened around him. And yeah, he acted like a simp to Mikasa. He acted pretty cringe to Armin when he was talking about Mikasa. But when has Eren not been cringe? He's always been a crybaby. He's always been like that. It felt very in line with his character to me. That's his real self shining through after years of not having had anyone to properly be vulnerable to, right? So it's very natural to me that he acted that way to Armin. And if he was in love with Mikasa, then it all fits for me. I don't have any problems with that dialogue. But I know many people do, and they're welcome to. That's just my take on it. One more thing to clarify about my opinions on the final Attack on Titan chapter that I want to say is that the extra pages added in, I thought benefited it quite a bit. At first, I didn't think they did a ton, but the final image of the whole series being the kid and his dog looking up at the tree, I think is much more effective than what they had before. And I think it harkens back to the whole idea that Erwin talked about to, maybe it was Pixis or someone in the Uprising arc, where he said that war will never end as long as more than one human exists on this earth. Essentially, that as long as humans exist, war will exist. So it stays consistent with that idea, but while that's a very dark idea, and then in conjunction with the Aaron's plan and everything he did, while that's a very dark idea, all of that together, there is still a hope attached to it through the kid, the implication that the kid will discover this thing and things will set off again, but there are very clear parallels with him and Aaron, maybe him and other characters in the story, Reiner, Armin, whoever, who would want to put a stop to it. So what I'm trying to say is that it strikes a fine balance between maintaining the ideas that were always there about humans' inherent need for conflict, and perhaps the idea that it is just impossible to ever stop war as long as humans exist. But it adds the element of hope there through saying that, but as long as war exists, there will always be people trying to prevent it or stop it. And humanity, while they'll never stop fighting, they'll also never stop trying to protect and thrive and make a world where there is no fighting. And that sentiment itself is very important and worth fighting for, even if it never ends up coming to fruition. So yeah, I think that ending really drives home that element that wasn't there in the final chapter as much. And for that reason, I think it's very thought-provoking and poetic and powerful in that way. And I didn't talk about this in the question and answer, so I just wanted to add this in. What is your favorite video? Already answered that. If you could remake one of your videos, what would you remake? I think I've already remade everything that I would want to remake, so my video on the Phantom Troop is one that I sort of updated in multiple videos since then, and I'm happy with those. My video on Meruem, I've since made a updated video on Meruem. My video on Gon, I made an addendum for. My Royal Guards video, I've updated with videos on Pito and Poof. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else that I would want to remake in terms of my videos. There are videos that I'm not proud of as much, or that I think are not very good, but I wouldn't want to remake them. I'm just editing the final version of this video, and I was just finalizing everything, but I came across this question that just got asked today, which is like a week after I asked the question, but it's really interesting because I didn't give an answer for this specific sort of thing. They ask, how do you watch media with respect to using that media for videos? And that's phrased in a way that I don't entirely understand, but hopefully I have an answer that kind of answers it for you. Something that I think is very important, and this relates to a question I answered a little bit earlier about sort of going into rewatching things and my attitude towards rewatching and watching things and using that material for videos. Something that I think is very important is sort of explaining how I respond to media or stories, and that is primarily emotionally. When I'm watching something, I try my best to be immersed in it, and I don't go in with an analytical mindset at all, and I think I've sort of discussed that before. But for me, it's so important to just open myself up emotionally to stories. And if I am affected emotionally, then we can go from there and sort of take a look at that and examine that and be more analytical or technical afterwards. But my process for that is watch a story, react emotionally to the story. If it's a strong emotional reaction, a strong positive emotional reaction, as it usually tends to be for me, explore that, take a closer look at the story, take a closer look at my own feelings, and see why I feel the way I do. And the more intimate and in tune I am with why I feel the way I do towards that media and why I had that specific emotional reaction, the closer I get to then getting towards the technical aspect of it. But I don't ever go into something trying to think, okay, let's analyze this. I never do that. It's always emotions first, and then analysis, if you can call it that, afterwards, because there has to be a heart to my motivation to want to analyze in the first place. I don't know if this answers this question, but that's always been an important sort of philosophy of mine that I think is very central to why I make videos, so hopefully it at least answers that a little bit. What do you plan to stream on Twitch? Video games. That's one of the big things that I need to prepare for, is getting a game to play, because right now I'm kind of at a loss. And I also want to do sort of more casual chatting stuff, like maybe tier lists. Recently I've been talking on Twitter about this top 100 ranked fictional stories list that I came up with. I'm kind of finalizing that a little bit. I'm either going to share that on Twitch while I'm streaming and sort of count down from 100 up, just as a long series if people are interested in that. Or if people are not too interested in that, or if I don't feel like doing it on a stream, I'd make a long tweet thread, and maybe every day I'd reveal one from the list. And so I'm finalizing that list soon. But yeah, so fun things like tier lists or that or whatever, but gaming mostly. What's your top 3 favorite TV shows? That would be Mad Men is my number 1, Breaking Bad is my number 2, and Black Sails is my number 3. Better Call Saul could climb up anywhere after the final season is finished. Before YouTube, what was your job? I was a student. I was also doing that coaching thing I mentioned, but primarily I was a student. How old are you? I'm 27. I'm old, but I'm young at heart. And most importantly, do you know what the properties of Bungie Gum are? Yeah, I do. Best rom-com anime? I guess my highest rated rom-com would be Kaguya-sama. Yeah. Have you ever wanted to attempted to make your own book? Yeah. So like I mentioned before, I've dabbled, I've started to do it, and then never really found it fun or gratifying. Sorry for the voice crack. So yeah, never really pursued it much further than just dabbling. This is more of a comment. I can't believe you do not like Diamond No Ace. I saw it on your drop list, I think. Diamond No Ace is my reason for living. I don't not like Diamond No Ace. I think it's pretty decent. It's not dropped. It's, I'm pretty sure it's on hold. Yep. It's on hold. I don't love it, but I think it's pretty decent, you know? What are your favorite aspects of 6 Feet Under, and what other pieces of media do you find most similar to it? So my favorite aspects would be probably the very organic character journeys and the way that the story deals with death. 6 Feet Under is very in tune with how the different ways in which people think about, deal with death, how they grieve, and different perspectives when it comes to death, the finality of life. And that's very morbid, but I think it's very comforting because it's sort of, by laying those truths bare and those ideas bare, it opens the wound so that it can heal a bit more. That analogy doesn't work too well, but hopefully you get what I mean. It just, by putting it out in the open, it makes it a lot more comfortable to think about. So it's a very comforting show in that way for me, even if it can be very dark. So that would probably be my favorite thing about it. What other pieces of media do you find most similar to it? It's very unique. I don't think many are similar to it, but I guess in terms of the organic character writing, I would say Mad Men is quite similar to it. But that's a very, it's a very broad comparison. There isn't much that I would compare to 6 Feet Under. What is your general process from creating a video from start to finish? Already talked about that. How do you deal with creative burnout as a YouTuber? Love your videos. Keep up with the fantastic work. Thank you. So burnout is so important for YouTubers or any creator in general to deal with. What I tend to do is one of two things, or kind of two things. One of them is a preventative measure, and that's just generally baked into my approach with videos. So I cover a variety of stories. I rarely ever do 2 videos of the same topic, one after another. I did that with Breaking Bad semi-recently, or actually very recently, but that was just because I think the 2 videos sort of merged with each other well. But in general, I don't upload 2 Hunter x Hunter videos in a row. I don't write 3 Hunter x Hunter video scripts in a row. Same with Haikyuu. I like to keep things fresh and rotate between all sorts of different series, because if all I did was talk about Hunter x Hunter, I'd get sick of that, I'd burn out. you want to talk about different sorts of things, or at least I do. I can't speak for anyone else. Keeping it variable, keeping it fresh, keeps it interesting for the audience, I think. I think people tend to appreciate the variety. And for me, that's one way that prevents burnout. I think it stops me from experiencing it more often. But then you can never avoid it entirely. And then when you do, I just take a break, you know? Stop making videos, stop writing, be good to yourself, rest, sleep, eat well, exercise, go for walks, whatever. Watch some more anime, play some more games, don't do work. But the thing is, YouTube is not the best work environment. I can't speak much about Twitch because I haven't been on it yet. But YouTube is not the best work environment for that because it encourages you to do frequent uploads. So what you've got to do is build a backlog. Right now, I'm currently working on videos for... Today's November 1st, 2021. I'm working on videos for January 2022, going into February as well. I've got most of the November stuff finalized. I've got the December stuff done. Yeah, so work at least a month or two in advance so that if you suddenly come up and are confronted with burnout, you can take a break. You don't need to take 3 months, at least. Okay, no, actually, it's different for everyone, so don't take that to heart. Maybe you do need 3 months. But for me personally, I've never needed 3 months. I've just needed a couple weeks here and there. And yeah, so take breaks. Build up a backlog while you are being productive to enable those breaks. And then you can upload videos while you're not doing anything. That's how it's worked for me. I'm sure that's hopefully useful for other people. What's your take on Studio Ghibli? Ghibli? I don't know how to pronounce it. I've never said it out loud, have I? I don't know. Movies. Do you like them? Would you consider ever doing analyses of them? If you haven't, I super recommend them. Can't imagine you not liking them. Thanks for the amazing work you do. You're a real inspiration. That's very sweet, thank you. Yeah, I mean, you can check my mail for that as well, but I like Ghibli movies. Princess Mononoke is probably my favorite, but, hold on.
Studio Ghibli.
Ghibli.
Himself.
Ghibli.
It wasn't until 1988 that Miyazaki and his Studio Ghibli would win widespread recognition.
Ghibli. I was right. Okay, Princess Mononoke is my favorite. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Yeah, but Princess Mononoke is my favorite, but in general, I think I've liked every one I've seen. But I wouldn't consider doing analyses of them, because one, I don't think I have much to add to the conversation, and two, from what I've seen, they run into tons of copyright problems, so not worth it. How do you feel about the 3DS and Switch Pokemon regions in relation to the other regions you've covered? I can go through them. So, Kanto is more of a foundation than a living and breathing world to me. It just feels a little more shallow and one-dimensional compared to Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, and Unova. Not to say that it doesn't have lore, doesn't have any richness at all, doesn't have thematic storytelling in there. It does, it's just to a lesser extent than the other ones, in my opinion. I think they were really just trying to get down the gameplay and concept for the game rather than the setting and story. So I don't believe the setting was a big focus for them for that one, and I think it showed. And I think it's understandable. I think that's fine. I really like Gen 1, but in terms of the regions, Kanto just is a bit blander than the other ones, not as rich for me personally. Then if we go to Kalos, X and Y, I just don't enjoy that region that much. I love individual cities like Snowbell, Laver, but if we look at Snowbell, the thing is, it's this beautiful snowy town, the beautiful music, it's like Christmas, so wonderful. Then you leave the town to either the east or west, and suddenly it's like summer. One screen, winter, the next screen, summer. So there's very little cohesion and natural geographical transitions, which is something that I kind of want a bit more in my settings. I've talked about that in my videos. But just in general, Kalos isn't too cohesive in that way, geographically. And I just don't find the themes it communicates to be that integrative with the setting. The story doesn't integrate with the setting quite as it does, because there's lore, there's history, there's all of that, but it doesn't do it in a way that really caught my interest. The story just wasn't that interesting to me. That's basically all. I'm just not too passionate about Kalos. Alola is... I do think it has the richness of the regions I've covered, but I was never able to, like, maybe even to a greater extent than some of them, because some of the stuff they cover with the legendaries, the islands, all of that stuff, it's really rich. There's a lot of thought put into it, but I never connected with Alola like I feel like I should have because of the presentation. You're very zoomed in on the characters. It's very Corridor-like, rather than the broader perspective you get from the other games. So I've never been able to adhere myself to that style. I didn't really like it much, so I didn't find myself as immersed in it, and as a result, it was like a domino effect. I was never as immersed in Alola as a region as I should have been, which is too bad because there's a lot of thought put into it. It's very rich. Definitely the most rich of the regions I have not covered. And then Galar. Galar has lots of interesting cities and concepts that I like exploring. I just think more time needed to be put into there to better flesh it out. Yeah, is that it? Because there is a lot of thought put into it. Maybe with Galar, it's just... Because it's very clear that Sword and Shield were not absolutely 100% finished upon release. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's it. Who do you think is the most undervalued or underrated character in Hunter x Hunter? Okay, so Hoof is underrated in some way still. Frollo is underrated in some way still, at least from what I see on Twitter. Yuppie, in some ways. But if I had to think of the most underrated character, I would say Melody. How tall are you? I'm 5'9.5", 5'10", somewhere around there. I haven't measured in a long time. I feel like you'd answer this question and answer or not, but bro, is there going to be a video on Yuppie? And if so, any teasers you can spare? See, the thing with that is I can only really talk about future video topics with my patrons. Because I can't dedicate as much time as I would like to Patreon rewards, because YouTube is one of my part-time jobs. I have another part-time job on top of that, so I have to keep up with both. I can't dedicate as much time as I would like to YouTube, and as a result, I can't put as much into my Patreon as I'd like. So because of that, one of the few things I can offer my patrons is exclusivity. If they ask me stuff like this, I will answer them, tell them, but not just regular comments. There are a few exceptions, like semi-recently I revealed what my next Haikyuu video would be like by giving the thumbnail and sort of building hype in that way. But by and large, I try to only answer questions about future video topics to patrons, 90% of the time. So, sorry, I can't really answer this. Unless you're a patron. If you're a patron, just ask me on Patreon and I will tell you. So this one is one I've kind of answered already. How would you recommend getting into writing or recording video essays? I have a bunch of ideas, but have trouble making them sound as good as yours. Thanks for all your hard work. So, my thing here is the concept of having a bunch of ideas but not really knowing how to organize them. Just focus on one. If you have a bunch of ideas for one video that you want to get at, make one video for one idea for one video. Just focus on that. Focus on explaining that one idea, that one concept, fleshing it out, communicating what you think is special about it. That's better than, I think, getting things a bit tied up, things being a cluster with many ideas. You once said that the war is bad theme became tired for you. So what are the themes that you love most in media, and why do you have a lot of war is bad anime in your favorites list? And may I ask, why do you not watch a lot of Western movies? Wow. That's like 3 or 4 questions. Okay. So, background information about that. I once tweeted a few months ago, I think, that a story has to be very interesting or well executed for me to buy into it and become invested if it's about war. Just because I've seen a lot of them. A lot of stories about war. So what I meant by that is essentially that I will give less leeway to a story I'm getting into that I'm not as impressed by if it's about war. War being bad, than I would to stories covering other themes. That's basically all it is. You know, I'm a bit exhausted of the theme, but if it's executed well, I'll still watch a show, I'll still enjoy it. So what are the themes you love most in media? I don't really love any themes. I just love the execution of the themes. It's all about how it's executed. I don't really have any inherent preference for that sort of thing. And why do you have a lot of war is bad anime in your favorites list? I don't think I do. None of these are war is bad anime. Gintama kind of is, I guess. Vinland Saga is one. At a stretch, I guess Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is kind of one. That's a thematic idea it covers. Death Note, not real. No, it's a bit divergent from that. I mean, Violet Evergarden in some episodes sort of goes into war being bad, but I don't think it's an anime about war being bad. Attack on Titan, yeah, that's one. And I'll give you Fate Zero too. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3 at a stretch, 4, 5. 5 out of 42. That's not a lot. I don't think that's a lot. Anyways, these war is bad anime are in my favorites list because they're great. Because I like them a lot. You know? If they're well executed, I have no problem with having them in my favorites list. I think they're really good. That's all. And may I ask why you do not watch a lot of Western movies? I do. I don't watch them every day or anything, but I do watch a decent amount of them. I just either forget to put them on my Letterboxd, or I just don't talk about them much on Twitter or in videos. But I do watch them frequently enough. If you didn't get into YouTube, what do you think you'd be doing right now? I would be doing my other part-time job full-time, which would be... I wouldn't enjoy that too much, but, you know. I'd love eventually to be able to do YouTube part-time, but I just don't think it's... Or YouTube full-time, but I just don't think it's in the cards. What are your plans for the future regarding your channel? I know this is a bit of a hard question, but do you plan to keep doing the same or take a different route? P.S. Love your videos. Glad you love the videos. What are your plans for the future? So, just evolution, just refining what I'm doing currently right now. Obviously, the stuff I talked about in the beginning of this video, I do want to branch out and do more casual content, more personal things like streams, videos like this. Aside from that, for main channel videos, it's just mostly about evolving the style I have. I don't want to stagnate, so it's a healthy balance between stagnation and drastic evolution. So nothing too drastic, but I do want to continue to progress. You can expect a lot of the same, but me trying to improve things and here and there try and take different approaches. Hopefully you'll be here for it. What makes YouTube worthwhile for you? Being able to express myself, talk about my favorite stories, things that I'm super passionate about, and have people sort of reciprocate that energy and comment about the things I say or share their own stories, their own thoughts, and all of that. Having a platform to be able to do this is amazing, and being able to do it, getting paid for it as a part-time job, that's just beyond my wildest dreams. That's just crazy to me. Of course, there are lots of negatives to working on YouTube. There are terrible negatives, but the positives definitely outweigh them, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. And yeah, I think just being able to talk about these things and for people to care about what I say, that's really special to me. How has the way you view media changed after starting YouTube? I don't think it's changed much. I think I just express myself differently. Express myself more efficiently and in different ways, but the way I view media, I think it's the same. I think it's been the same for a long time. Hey Alex, my question was, do you get writer's block? If yes, how do you deal with it? I absolutely adore your content, by the way. You're one of the greatest essayists I've ever seen. Your videos are seriously, absolutely spine-chilling. Keep doing what you do, you're fantastic about it. That's very sweet. Thank you. Thanks very much. I'm lucky, I don't get writer's block. Sometimes I'm a bit slower in getting ideas out there, or maybe I get a little ponderous and can't really get the idea out there. But in general, I've never been completely stumped. No, I don't think I've ever really had it. I'm lucky. And now I've jinxed myself, because now in the future I'm definitely going to get writer's block. And when that happens, I will tell you how I deal with it. But as for right now, I'm good. Who are your favorite content creators? Oh, okay. That's a good question. Okay, so you can see some of them here, I guess. So in terms of reactors, I really like reaction videos. So we can start there. One of my favorites, Nikki and Steve. These two are great, husband and wife. They don't do any anime reactions, but I watched their entire series on Breaking Bad and enjoyed most of it. I watched their reactions to Better Call Saul, really enjoyed that, more than Breaking Bad. I'm currently watching them go through Black Sails, one of my favorite TV shows as well, and they're loving that. I'm loving being able to re-experience the series with them. They're just great. They really get into the show. They're watching. They're really enthusiastic about it. And yeah, so I don't watch them super often because a lot of the series they cover I'm just not too interested in. Like they do The Walking Dead, which I'm not too into. They did Midnight Mass, which I've been watching their series about, which I enjoyed. But when they do cover things that I'm interested in, really like their stuff. So Nikki and Steve, reaction channel. Another one, LM Reacts. Reactions. These are two women who react to a series of stuff. Right now they're doing Better Call Saul, Attack on Titan, and Legend of Korra. I'm not interested in Legend of Korra, but I watched their Breaking Bad reactions. They're awesome. Better Call Saul continues to be awesome. Their Attack on Titan is really popular. They uploaded this 2 days ago. It's got 156k views. But they're really popular and for good reason. They're super enthusiastic and they get very emotional about the subject matter. The one thing I look for in reaction channels is that vicarious experience. So being able to watch something and watch others experience it for the first time and relive the emotions you had through their emotions. As long as someone is invested and has an emotional reaction to it, I'm usually very into that for when it comes to reactions. If people try to be a bit more analytical and technical about it, I'm usually not as into that sort of reaction. Nothing wrong with it, it's just not my preference. So my ideal thing is a mix of analytical, theoretical, and the most important thing, emotional. And they get so emotionally invested while also just being very knowledgeable. They pay attention. They're great. They're really entertaining. One of my favorite channels to watch now. They're great. So this guy, ya boy Roshi, his reactions are a bit more casual, but you sort of go to his reactions for funny, kind of hype reactions to stuff. Like he's watching Kaguya-sama with his wife, I think. I think they're married. And the reactions are hilarious. They get really into the stuff. I like their reactions to Attack on Titan, Violet Evergarden, all that sort of stuff. It's just a nice sort of comfy reaction channel to watch something that's, a bit more casual than the 40-minute, hour-long reactions that you might get on other channels. But it's, they've got their merits too. I find them really entertaining. Film Buff. He is, in my opinion, the best YouTube reactor. My favorite YouTube creator right now. He's got everything. And also he's from Toronto, which is where I'm from, so that's cool. When he watches something, he is 100% dialed in, 150% dialed in. He pays attention to every little detail. The visual storytelling, the storytelling in general, the direction. Just he's got his eyes on everything, and he's so emotionally invested in the things he enjoys as well. And then once he's done the reactions, he's the only reactor that I watch for whom I watch the theory crafting and discussion after. Usually I don't care too much about that, but I really love his thought process. He's super intelligent. He pays attention to all sorts of things. When it comes to his Attack on Titan series, he predicted things that happened way down the series super early on, using very minute details that were nonetheless there and present, but I never thought of them. So it's cool to see someone so observant. So he's great. He did Attack on Titan. He's up to date with it. He's doing Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, another show I love, Vinland Saga, Death Note. Really enjoy all those series. He's going into video games as well. He's currently on a hiatus for health-related reasons, so that's a bit of a shame. But I think he's coming back within the next couple of months or something. So I'm eagerly awaiting that. That'll be great. My favorite reactor. check him out if you haven't already. He's great. And then, yeah, so that's right here. Coach Donnie, this guy he's a volleyball coach. He does reactions to Haikyuu. He applies his knowledge of the sport to the actual anime. So it's cool to see his perspective. I enjoy his videos. They're very kind of therapeutic in a way. And he's kind of also into the animation side of things, so you'll make observations about the animation techniques used as well, so there's a bit of that. Mostly, it's just very educational from a volleyball expert's perspective, applied to the story of Haikyuu. He's really into it. I enjoy this series a lot. Okay, so I don't really watch anime analysis videos. It's just not something I'm too interested in, which is ironic because people know me as primarily an anime content creator, even though I'm trying to get away from that a little bit. But on occasion I do watch some, so I'll just list a few that I watch on occasion. Here's one I'm already subscribed to. Ember Reviews. I'm not going to go into it too much, but talks about lots of shonen, Pokemon. I always enjoy when I watch his videos. I think they're really good. So, would recommend. Has nowhere near as many subscribers as he deserves. Another one is Kevin Ya. I like his videos a lot as well. Lots of heart and effort put into them. Cool looking thumbnails. You know, just very heartfelt content. A lot of work put into it. It's great. He's good too. Like I said, I don't watch anime YouTube. Oh, here we go. Under the Scope. I've watched all of his Monogatari videos. They're great. Same thing applies here. I don't watch his videos a ton, but when they do cover things that I'm really interested in, Fate, Monogatari, this Hoseki no Kuni one, they're always great. They're well edited. He has a great editor. So yeah, would recommend. But he's fairly popular already. I'm sure you already know about him. And I talked to all these guys on Twitter, so I know they're friendly as well. I talked to UTS a bit less than the other two. But yeah, they're great guys. Watch their stuff. It's all good. Now for a couple of podcasts. Just Weebs. So this is a relatively recent, as in 6 months or so, they started. It's a podcast with Onimaru and Shocking. Shocking's a great friend of mine, and she does great work with this podcast. It's a fun one. I don't listen to it a ton, but when I do, it's always fun. And it's not because I don't want to, it's just time. Would recommend this one. It's always fun, always good discussions. Not many subscribers, they deserve more, so check that out. And then, trying to remember the name of Shaw's other one. Okay, the Our Anime Podcast. This one has a bit more of a following, but again, this is another one that Shaw is part of. And they're great. Again, don't listen to podcasts super often, but these are always fun. They're funny. They're good as background noise if you need that sort of thing while you're working on something. I've been on here a few times for Attack on Titan. I've been a little shyer than I would normally be. Yeah, like see, I was on this one where they'd watch the Attack on Titan episode, and then an hour or two after the episode they do a reaction to it. So I was on there a few times, and they were always very accommodating and friendly to me. Would recommend this as well. Again, I'm sorry if I didn't, if I'm missing some people. This is literally just off the cuff, so I'm probably forgetting some stuff. And then one more anime analysis channel. I really like Replay Value. So they're really focused on sort of the visual storytelling aspects of anime. Their Hyoka series is really great, and not a lot of people that I see talk about stories in that way, so I think it's a nice sort of, I guess, alternate perspective if you're into that sort of thing. So Replay Value is great too. Oh, Kato's good too. They're good too. This is two people who analyze all sorts of different things. They've got good stuff as well. There are also 3 video game analysts, actually 4, that I'm really into. I'll quickly go over them. I don't want to go too long. Inkei, great. I think I have enjoyed all of the videos I've seen of his. I watch a lot of the Mario stuff, the Zelda stuff, Pokemon stuff. It's all great. Matthew Matosis, yep. Everyone knows who this guy is. He's wonderful. Joseph Anderson, same deal. Bit of a hiatus for him, but hopefully he finishes this Witcher series. And then there's Lore Runner. So he used to be my favorite content creator in general in 2016, 2017, where he would talk about the themes and lore of the video games he'd cover. And he sort of shifted away from that a little bit. He's gone more to being a bit of a critic, a reviewer. And I'm not as into that, so I tend to gravitate towards his earlier stuff. And I don't really watch him as often anymore, so I don't really know what he's up to. I'm sure a lot of effort's put into it. It always has been very heartfelt work. And I'd especially recommend the older stuff. Not to say his new stuff isn't as great, but I just haven't watched it, so I can't really say. But the older stuff is really great. Thematic story analysis of Final Fantasy games, Zelda games, really great stuff. So, like, an example would be... So here is where 4 years ago he did a playthrough of Final Fantasy IX while sort of talking about the lore of the game, the themes, the storytelling, etc. That one's really good. I've watched this. This one, yeah, they can be watched as sort of podcasts because, you know, it's essentially him just talking to a screen. But the actual content is great. Here he talks about Final Fantasy IX for nearly 2 hours, and it's all interesting stuff. I can vouch. All this stuff is really great. And then, just to close this out, let's do 2 or 3 streamers. DB Geek. He streams and then primarily puts that content on YouTube from what I'm aware of. I'm currently watching his Zelda playthrough, Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Before that I watched his Xenoblade one. Both are great. He's super enthusiastic, super engaged into the story, great energy. It's just a great channel to sort of unwind with. If he's covering a story you're interested in, then you'll have a good time with it. Next, Sarah Key. She is wonderful. She gets very emotional. She covers a lot of video games that I love. Xenoblade, Final Fantasy. She's doing Persona right now, and I'm loving that playthrough. Nier, Chrono Trigger. I love her reactions. She's so dialed into the content. She's so invested in it. Her reactions are so emotional. It's like watching me react to these games for the first time, just kind of dialed up emotionally. I was never that emotional, but it's great watching someone who gets into these things that much. So, Sarah Key is awesome. Would definitely recommend her channel. Streams primarily on Twitch. The YouTube content seems to be mostly edited. Edited VODs and that sort of thing. So yeah, you can support her on both Twitch and YouTube. And then, last one, I just recently got to sort of know Louise Hannah through talking with her a bit, and she's a sweetheart, and her content's really good too. I haven't watched a ton of it just because lately she's been streaming a lot of things that I'm not super interested in, like Resident Evil. I'm not sure what was before that, but Devil May Cry, maybe? I don't know. But I wasn't super into the games. But I did watch a bit of her Final Fantasy 15 playthrough, and that was really fun. And so I actually discovered her through watching a highlights video of her Final Fantasy 10, her reaction to the ending of Final Fantasy 10. I think this was it. It was this video. So yeah, she gets very emotional as well. She gets very invested. Her reactions are fun, funny, and she's a very sweet person, if that's worth anything. So yeah. Okay, so this was the YouTube portion of the question and answer. It's gone on quite long. I think I will separate this into the YouTube questions and the Twitter questions. So if you stuck with me this long, thank you very much. I appreciate it a ton, and I hope this was valuable in some way to you. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the questions. Thank you very much for asking. And, yeah, I'll see you in the next one. I'm going to recharge and answer the Twitter questions. Thanks a lot. See ya.